Chapter 2. I met Blank in one of those freak winter warm spells that falls over the city sometimes, said Zero. She was standing in line at D'Agostino's in her nurse's uniform, just standing there in all that whiteness under those merciless grocery lights. It set something off in me. I wanted to sink my teeth into the whiteness and bathe and baptize myself in it, and then wrap some around me to keep out the devil who'd been stalking me all through the streets that winter. I thought she was on her way to play a nurse somewhere on stage, but there was the Bellevue Burn Unit name tag on her white lapel with a blank space where her name should be. And then I saw these little burn craters doused in makeup arcing across her neck up into that wilderness of hair. Someone had used her for an ashtray. I asked her to ditch work and join me around the way. I could talk about the walls of the Royale on our first night together. How they invite you to read things into the stains. Once a grease spot shaped like Marilyn Monroe came alive and did a little dance for us. The morning glories in the wallpaper swam and swirled. I tied her off at the wrist and set a little snake to dancing on top of Blank's left hand. "Hold on to me," I said. "We're going places." I gave the snake a tap, and sank the spike in low, resting it there like a wasp come in for a landing. It was a firm, fresh vein. Never been kissed. Bright blood bloomed up into the shaft, marrying with my own. Here is where everything gets born. Here in this moment before the ties release. Jesus was conceived here. Jesus and his opposite. Jesus walked into the garden. "Hold on to me." I loosed the tie and religion spread through her. About an hour in, Blank begins to sob and then make singing out of it. Her life walks across a screen behind my eyes. She remembers not wanting to be born. The exact hour and day inside there, not wanting to come out. The room takes on a glow like the Royale is burning. Way off somewhere on the chalky flats of Nevada, they set off a hydrogen bomb to measure the reach of its pillowy arms. Yellow dust covers us like pollen. She takes hold of my Bic lighter and jacks the flame on high. It's the only light in the room now, and we make our shadows do the talking. They look like dinosaurs hunting us from the ceiling. Hunting us like wild game. "My dad thought I was too pretty," she says, fingering along the pink scar tissue of her burn necklace. "So he gave me these to ward off the boys the way crosses ward off vampires. I was Never. I was never much into boys. The speed is getting up on its feet inside us now, and we run with it. You don't climb back into an airplane after you bail out. You let go. I love what happens right around here when the dope kicks in. The loving arms of Jesus and Mary and all 9 kinds of angels. It's there in your blood waiting to melt the terror. You forgot your parachute and magnificent wings open out from your shoulder blades. Wings you were born with but never spread open until now. Heroin is all about relief. Relief. It comes from the word hero. Now we're the heroes, and they've thrown a parade down the wide, tulipped boulevards for both of us. Everything we ever did or will do is forgiven. The air is full of salutations and morning glories. We take off our clothes and absolve each other of the shame and hatred we've carried around all our lives like hunchbacks. The graves of our ancestors open, and they join us here in this foul, stinking Lysol coop on the top floor of the Royale. The Royale is a regal establishment. It says right there on the one towel they give you. Our families and our families' families gather at the river around us to watch and to testify. There is singing and stomping and hallelujahs. I know from auditioning it many times that this speed gives a wonder-working power that goes on for a good 36 hours. We are just 2 hours in. We begin to read each other's minds. There's no smoking in here, but everybody smokes. People who never touched a Newport to their lips. We live in old reruns that never go off the air while the smoke shrouds our faces and softens everything. Some of us make cameos in each other's episodes. I remember it one way, and you another. It was 3 of us standing outside Sparks when Cray Cray got. It was me and you and that girl from the lanes we called Little Miss Muffet. Blood went all over us like a lawn sprinkler. No, you say. It was you and me and Rooftop Tommy. You're thinking of that other time down Rivington when Flacco got popped in the back of his head. He was just about to serve Little Miss Muffet and brains went all over her dress, remember? She wore those little Bo Peep shits. Those big lacy dresses all up and down Houston Street. Made her stand out from the competition. Some people like that, you know, that Snow White thing. I heard she got married. Moved up to Shitsdale or Scarsdale or one of those Dales. No, man. She got the bug. She got pulled in with those Dominicans in that bodega robbery. No, that was Squeaky. Squeaky went down for that. Squeaky 'cause she made that sound with her jaw wired shut. Remember that time Bobo clocked her? Man, Bobo never raised a hand to anybody in his life. She lived with Bobo. Or lived off that motherfucker, I should say. It was Sunbeam broke Squeaky's job. He had her out there at all hours, working the off-ramps and the tunnels. 13 degrees out. All up and down in those skimpy little see-through lingerie shits. He got way, way off into that glass dick over the winter. Burned through everything like it was paper mache. I was there, man. I was there. Stuff goes on in the back of Sparks that none of us knows about, said Boney. And not knowing makes it all feel bigger than it is. We fill in what we can't see. Human slave trafficking, said Dallas, before he went upstate, meaning Dannemora Correctional Facility. I could stand here talking to the dotted outline Dallas left behind, but he's several kinds of crazy, and he went away this time because he wanted to see how his wife's hand would turn out if he held it on a hot plate. It all gets written down someplace. Everything we do. Nobody ever gets away with anything. Rooftop Tommy thinks they're cutting up dope back there. Beautiful golden teenage girls, he says, in green hospital gowns like the nurses who took the bullet out of my lung. With face masks, too. Beautiful eyes. I saw one of those golden girls. Everything's beautiful to Tommy when he's properly medicated. He's been to Rikers about 13 times. Loves to rob the same buildings over and over and fall asleep on the rooftops. But Tommy's getting warmer with the dope-cutting idea. It's been going around that you can buy a real strong, uncut bag right over the counter at Sparks if you do and say the right thing to the right person. But none of us knows any secret codes or special handshakes. It sounds like another wet dream. Whenever you don't have it, you dream out loud about dope to conjure it up, like a genie. It's like people talk about when they lose an arm or a leg. The leg goes on itching and you reach down to scratch the empty air. And it feels good, scratching that air. There are gods in these streets, and you better learn their names, said Zero. The milk sugar god and the rat poison god. The god of this doorway tonight, not that one. A god who drives you down one lane of maze and repels you from another. A god of some special providence who holds you fast to the curb when the M1 bus blows by. And still another god who threads you through traffic across wide, tuliped boulevards as if you were the invisible man. A god for everything big and small, each with a matching demon. This is why the god of our tenderloin bodies gave us 2 shoulders. So this or that god and demon can ride us bareback, one on each side. Knowing we might die any second makes everything more alive. We find out from one day to the next. If we had been standing in a certain spot at a certain time yesterday, we'd be dead right now. But we weren't, and we're not. So there is something exalted in standing here right now. The bright-colored signs of bodegas emanate from within. Every smell is married to a sacred action in our minds. An abandoned gas station at 2nd and B on a white-hot morning. The sun cooks up the asphalt, and stale gasoline rises into our nostrils like a shot of cocaine. Yes, exactly like that. Around dusk, it's so easy to see the street put on its brave face. But if you narrow your eyes, there are bruises and sore places. That girl last year who went looking for her lost ring. She's not here, but her voice still does that Doppler thing all over the storefronts and the dumpsters where they found little shrink-wrapped pieces of her. Learn to read the street and you have a chance. You have a chance not to become a stain, an echo, a sore place looking for a body to feel it. If you don't have your wings, we'll know it. Your dope wings. Your runaway wings. You're fucked around with before 12 wings. Wing people. No wing people. I used to leave my body sometimes, said Igor. I used to leave my body crumpled in a corner and go flying around heaven in skinless wonder. I could look down on things and see how they work. The whole ant farm. I flew along in a V formation with dead people on their way to Palookaville. We chattered like geese about nothing in particular. Dead people on their way to the cutout bin are no better than the live ones, let me tell you. I knew I was supposed to be dead, too. But I fell back down. That's what I did. I came to feeling like a foot that's been asleep all over. Pins and needles all over since I got off dope. I miss those geese. I miss the chatter and the flying V. I can't unsee what I saw up there. The whole human duck walk. I think there's been a mistake, maybe. There's been some kind of mix-up. I once had to leap across an air shaft, said Rosie. Above where they were slinging this dope called Dig Your Own Grave. Rosie wears some kind of shunt in his head now that tunnels down through a catheter and empties out into his chest cavity. He's got the best war stories. It's like they flow right out of his shunt. Dig your own grave, it said on the glassine bag. The 9th showed up on a sweep and the dope crew dead-bolted us all inside. We had to climb up those putrefying stairs to the roof and then leap across to the next building, or else give ourselves over to a regulation beating and 3 sick days in the tubes. And this was all well and good, except on the roof of the next building, A 200-something-pound Puerto Rican transsexual named Doris was waving a butcher knife around and reciting things out of the Bible. Her makeup was done up like Betty Davis and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. There was a lake of fire and something about death on a pale horse coming out of Doris. It was inspiring, for sure. "This is nothing," said Rooftop Tommy. "I do this all the time. In my sleep I can make this." And he did, too, launching himself across without a running start like this emaciated jumping bean. Doris went on with her testifying like he wasn't even there, and this gave us all a little faith. Where's the wonder-working power of intravenous cocaine when you need it? I backed up to the far edge of the roof, and I spoke to my own 2 legs like they were pale horses, and I was death who sat upon them. It's an old Apache trick. You pronounce yourself dead, and there's nothing Doris can do to you. Time slows down like you forgot to wind it. The wings you've been hiding all your life spring out on hinges from your shoulder blades. Everything telescopes and gets serenely still. "Silence in heaven for about a half an hour," said Baby Jane Doris. "Hail and fire, mingled with blood, are thrown down to the earth, burning up a third of the trees and the green, green grass." Chemo Cheryl throws open a window. The air's full of lilacs and monoxide. Legs without bodies scissor along through the trapezoids of light. Some kid out on the sidewalk screams like she's being skinned alive. A bird flies in and beats against the high ceiling, then settles down on the podium, trailing cobwebs. But that's okay today. I try to look hard on the bright side now, said Limbo. I think about my cousin from down south named Dropsy. Balpine drove a nail through his skull one night. We was standing there by the turnaround off Brook Avenue, where the cars let off work and slow down for us. Peen walks up behind her. He didn't like the way she was carrying herself, the way she was representing, and he hammered a long, skinny nail right down through the top of her dome, just to make an example. It must have gone in just right. It didn't touch anything inside Dropsy except the invisible wires that go to her legs. Her legs dropped out from under her for a minute, but then she shot right back up and went to work. She gave Balpine a look like, "You can't kill me, motherfucker. I'm Wonder Girl." But after that night in the Bronx, you'd be talking to Dropsy and she'd just drop like a puppet to the sidewalk and then stand back up like it never happened. She'd drop and pop up. Drop and pop. So that's how she got the name Dropsy. She was Florence before that. Florence Gately from Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I tell myself on a bad day, when I'm craving a suck on that little glass dick, think about Dropsy, girl. You could have been Dropsy. I knew this girl once who could take out her teeth. Her teeth and part of her jawbone, said Pooh Bear. Her teeth and her jaw, and then later most of her nose. I mean, she had some kind of creeping face rot from doing so much ice. She was popular, though, back when it was just her teeth that came out. She was the belle of the motherfucking ball back then. Gigi looks like he stepped out of the Brady Bunch. You think you know people in here, but you never really know. I mean, things could be coming up roses, said Gigi, and then go very badly just like that. You're standing there, the sun spilled all over your arms, talking the easy talk you all talk in the streets. Summertime, nicely lubricated from that good speckled beige shit they've been putting out on those benches. Then a piece you never even see comes out, and there's a pop, pop, like bubble wrap, or that pigtail girl you grew up with crackling her juicy fruit. It's a wet sound, multiplied in thin ricochets off the storefronts, and then Flacco's face down on the concrete. Back of his head opened up like I don't know what. How could such a little wet sound bust open a skull like that? Those things don't go together. He looks peaceful down there, like he's turned over to get more sun on his back, 'cause, he's all done on the front, and this is Jones Beach instead of Rivington off the park. His fingers flittering all like butterfly wings. His head cradled lazy on one of his bent arms. You could let yourself believe the joke, but the blood starts fanning out all around you like black ink from some kind of giant squid. Everybody's scattered all to shit down the side streets except you with 2 cameras for eyes. And your heart jumping like a baboon in a cage. The same you who never turned away when they castrated hogs. The world you thought you belonged to, always showing you, no, you don't. Not really. Not ever. All I can think to myself is how rude, How rude the way they walked up on Flacco and blew out the back of his head. It was rude before it was anything else. Rude on a May morning to do this without some kind of ceremony or top of the morning to you. Just pop, pop, pop. It was rude. That's all I'm saying here. There's a wall up at our place where everybody leaves their 2 cents worth, said Zero. Phone numbers, handprints, Blood splatter from 1,001 blown speedballs. 2 bullet holes, one through the plaster and one in the beam. Sketches of stick people in doggy-style poses. JM last summer scrawled some animal thing down on its knees, drinking at a mulattoes-only water fountain, and then crossed out the word mulattoes. Once Cheat was up there in one of his manic moon phases, and he put his fist right through the wall. "To let the light in," he said. And then he put a steel-toed Doc Martin through the lower part. "To let it out again." Now the rats use the holes to make a fast getaway. Did you know that rats, confined in a small space, will commence to sexually assaulting and cannibalizing each other? Well, people don't like to dwell on it, said this lawyer guy named Squeegee. But humans shed their skins all the time like snakes. Look around. Our skin falls away in this fine powder and settles on the face of the world. Sometimes a wind kicks up and carries somebody's skin from Siberia, say, or China or Belize. Carries their dust across the dark water and drops it right here in this basement. And then that same wind on another day sweeps up the dust that was us and blows it right back over there to Cape Town or Seoul or the top of Mount wherever. The living and the dead, we all shed. People think they are better than snakes. But after the things I've seen this year, after the things I've done, I think maybe we are not as good. "I left out of Port Arthur," said Geechee One. "I hit all those skid towns coming up here. Drugstore, liquor store, cemetery, church. Drugstore, liquor store, cemetery, church. Every town like every other town. Same neon. Same skinny dogs in the yards. Same hills looking down on you like an old woman in a shawl. Drugstore, liquor store, cemetery, church. I thought I was Superman for a while, or at least his cousin. I drove barefoot with the pedal down as far as it would go. Meth ran out the soles of my feet. 1,000 Jimmy Swaggarts on the radio. I come in through the Howland Tunnel like it was swallowing me. I sold a car. I ran a girl or two. I got on the wrong side of some people. You know, some people, they only have that one side. You spin them around and there ain't nothing on the other side. I went boy crazy. You know, I got off into that boy That cocaine. I got to smoking it, slamming it, buying weight and cutting it all the way down to the bone. That's how I got these braces on my legs. They threw me under the back wheels of a Jeep Cherokee. Ran them over 3, 4 times. Thump, thump, thump. I went away to the island 18 months. I found God in there, I think. He'd come to me every night up through the storm drain. He looked just like RuPaul. I went to meetings all day inside there. I got me a sponsor. He got stabbed up. I got me another one. I worked these steps till I could pantomime them sideways in my sleep. They told me in there I had the bug. I come out the front gates on this walker, dragging my chicken legs behind me. It dragged me straight here to these rooms. God's foot all up in my ass. Geechee 2 is back out there somewhere, pulling cushions off the couch for spare change. Out there is a big place. It's everywhere that's not in here. It's also a small place. Small enough to hide in your mind. Geechee 3 takes Wellbutrin. Takes Klonopin and Paxil and Abilify. One person's clean and sober is another person's fentanyl patch or methadone morning vespers. You get so you look beyond all that, past the praying mantis eyes and the voices like dry leaves across a playground. Geechee 3 used to be on one of the daytime soaps. He burned through $1 million, he said. I burned through $1 million in 2 years. We were all of us lit up all the time on that show. You can see it in the reruns. We used to lay out lines in the dressing room while we were running our lines. Lines for lines, we called it. I got tangled up between the legs of that skank who played the nurse, who was also blowing the producer, who was also ass-fucking the real nurse over at Screen Gems. We were, all of us, a bunch of low-down, degenerate human vacuum cleaners who got so we couldn't tell ourselves or each other apart from the swine we played on that show. I'm still not sure who's the real me, or if there ever was a real me. They murdered me is what they did. They killed me off at the end of the season. My character fell down a well. A well. A fucking well in the middle of Manhattan. Walked around all day under the first hot sun of the year, said Zero. Just drinking the light into our white bodies. The sky was vacant and nothing fell out of it. Nothing that we could see fell out of it. The sickness poured down our legs and into our shoes. When the sun comes on like that, it bakes the streets and sidewalks. Whatever was in them comes rising into your mouth and nose. It's a human smell, like a human kennel. The street might as well be a wave you're riding, allowing you to see to the crest of it, up into the glow and the summer haze where the action is. The runners and the fiends and the soon-to-be-no-mores. Saw that guy who took us off. He looked like one of those skeletons let loose from detox. Burned holes right through us like we weren't even there. Maybe we're not. The heat plays all kinds of tricks with the light out there. Rippling and fun-housing everything it touches. People halfway down the block look stomped on and smeared. And the headless towers appear before the eyes of the gods to be dancing. Maybe Blank mistook my reflection for the skeleton guy. Or I mistook Blank's reflection. Or both. Anyway, he's probably somebody we took off first. It all works perfectly out, dear hearts. It's right here in the brochure. All that goes around comes perfectly back around. Said the god of goes around comes around.